Hey there, everyone. We're back with Victoria 2, the Confederate playthrough. Usually I enjoy just starting the recording from the save game, but it turns out the same button that I use to record is also the console. So, yeah, I'm going to have to change that, perhaps. We shall see. Alright, I'll get that going. So, yeah, the Confederates were a more popular choice. People want to see the Rebs, so I thought, let's do the Confederacy. It kind of makes sense in my head anyway because the expansion is for A House Divided, and it's it's kind of centered around the Civil War. So, I'm not sure if I'll do another Victoria playthrough. We'll see how this one goes. If I do, the unification of Italy is a great place to go. Basically, the reason why I get kind of leery about doing Paradox games is a lot of times it's pretty easy to wind up in a situation where there's not much to do. So, at least with Italy, there will be things to do. So that's good. And let's just see. I'm guessing that they've sent quite a lot up north to deal with the British. I'm hoping. So we're gonna go ahead and send the Second Army back that way. Are we building replacement units for that? We're short like 3 infantry for their... Oh, well there's one of them. No more. So, terribly sorry as well. I really do think I'm getting a cold. So that sucks. I hate getting sick. Getting sick is not fun. And Matt, you've been waiting for a grand strategy game playthrough for longer than 7 seconds? Holy crap. If I'd known that, I would have done this way sooner. Yeah, hope you like it. Yes, pincer movements may not be my friend. Thankfully, this pincer movement, although it looks like it's not really succeeding, this pincer movement is more dependent on the British. All I really need to do is just kind of keep this mine. Oh, no. Wrong one. There we go. Keep the south mine, and then we should be able to, from there, well, keep the country ours, I guess. We should be able to hold off the British, is what I'm thinking. It's what I'm hoping. And Grammar Nazi, I think I've got the audio fixed here for Victoria. I'm pretty sure I do. Let me know. Now I just need to fix the audio for Civ. So that's fun. Serves me right for, I guess, not doing anything like sound tests or anything like that before recording. I just hit the go button and I go. So hopefully everything's loud and clear and you can hear this. I hope. And I am Newfie. I'm not gonna lie, that's a pretty tall order. Maybe, and this is a gigantic maybe, but maybe I can do a Confederate North America? Or Confederate, like, you know, US and Canada. Getting a full-on invasion of the actual UK, though, that's... I mean, if I get into a position to do it, I'm certainly going to do it. But, yeah, don't hold your breath for that. I'm not that good of a Victoria player. I mean, people can take, you know, tiny little nations and make them world powers. I can't. So I'll be impressed if the Confederacy stays as an independent nation till the end of the game. That's really all I'm hoping for. And, yeah, I'm fairly confident that's going to happen. All right. There we go. I guess Savannah isn't really a shipyard. That's interesting. I think I've got 4 as the Confederacy, so that's enough for now. Oh, what have we got there? Will Mr. Gordon, Admiral Gordon, be able to defeat the evil American fleet of monitors? Probably not. Oh, their organization's pretty low, and ours is just right up there. It looks like we got the British Navy doing a fair job of blocking them off. Oh, sorry about all this sniffling that my mic's probably picking up. I just don't really have an option. So, I was thinking, historically, what could I talk about during a playthrough of the Civil War? Because it's kind of a touchy subject, you know? Even just the good old-fashioned question of, why was the war fought? I've never really bought into it was fought for slavery. The main reason for that would be it wasn't the issue of the war until 1863 in the Gettysburg Address. So, yeah. I don't really buy into the whole it was fought to free the slaves. Because if that's the case, then the first 2.5 years of the war were for what? You know? So that's the thing. I've never really bought into the official line that it was to free the slaves. Don't get me wrong. I mean, slavery was like an underlying issue of why the war happened. In a way, right? Like, it's interesting. So, as we all know, history is written by the victors. And I'm convinced this is why we see the reason for the Civil War is slavery. Because if you take a look at what the South really wanted, it wasn't necessarily owning slaves. It was the individual states' rights versus, federal government rights. Because you have to remember, the United States, there's a reason it's called United States, right? Each state is its own, in theory, nation-state. So, when it was founded, right? The 13 colonies formed... did the British come along? And they did. Thank you, England. See, we're getting along great. I'm going to send England some love here. Just increase our relations a bit. We're cool. So yeah, the original reason of the founding of the American states. Hold up. Ah, damn. Why is it so jumpy? Crazy. My frame rate dropped to 6 and 4. It shouldn't be this bad. I mean, it's interesting that it's down to 25. Anyway, sidetracked. I'm just going to assume this is going to sort itself out. Yeah, the original 13 colonies banded together with a very loose federal government. Now, and the idea was, they'd all work together, but they'd all be independent states working together. You can already kind of see this slipping away by the time 1812 rolls around. Because, we've got the Americans invading British North America. Extenuating circumstances in this war. That's a very complicated war, but you do see the United States acting as a single nation state. And this period, the American Civil War, is when it really comes into its own. And in my opinion, anyway, I'm sure there were people who will disagree with me, but in my opinion, that is, or the Civil War is the moment when we see the idea of the American nation and not a collection of nations take form. And that's what the issue was. Because slavery in itself doesn't seem, to me anyway, like a good reason to fight a war. If you take a look at the British, for example, slavery was abolished by an act of Parliament incredibly peacefully. And, you can go and point to... We should have that. Even with Sherman. You can point to the economic conditions of the South and say, well, the South's economy was entirely dependent on slavery. And, I mean, it was, but I still don't think that's the reason why. It was, a group of states who disagreed with the federal government on a certain issue, and basically the American federal government said, take it or leave it. So when the South said, okay, we'll leave it, then that's when the question arose. Should, this American idea, this American experiment, the feeling was, if the Confederacy won, then, and I believe the feeling was, this is my general understanding, is that if the Confederacy won, then the American experiment failed. And let's also face it, I mean, as a unified nation, the United States, it's pretty badass. It's a big, resource-filled, super state is really what it is. God, what the hell? Alright, Army of Northern Virginia, we're getting you out of Stanton. I think that's right, Stanton. Thank you, Matt. And we are going to roll into Richmond once we recapture it. There we go. What the hell? Why are we losing? Oh, that's a pretty good general. And what the? Our organization is just dropping. I guess that won't really help. Oh. Looks like we'll be taking that American army in 2 waves, probably. So yeah, I've never really bought into the whole it's for slavery line. I think it's always important to take a look at history, however it's presented to you, however you find out about it, and approach it critically. Think about it. Does the explanation make sense? For me, fighting over slavery doesn't make sense, especially considering how bloody this war was. And yeah, it's tough for me to think that that many people would fight just to keep a group of people in chains. Maybe that's a 20th/21st century bias I've got as I'm looking at it. Why are you going back to Little Rock? You're just gonna... Ah! Yeah, that got you running. I think he's gone for good. We'll just make sure. Alright. His organization is pretty low, so we should be able to knock old... No, that's not even Sherman up there. Sherman really got his ass kicked. So we should clean those up, no problem. Yeah, it never made sense to me that people would be that hardcore about fighting to keep people in chains. Never understood that. So these are good. Still gonna need the reinforcements. See, I don't think I'm able to take them on the offensive yet. Just gonna have to do this while the organization of the Second Army just builds up a little bit. Frustrating, because I'd really like to recapture Fayetteville, but I just don't have the ability to. We'll slowly get this guy working through and recapturing all the necessary things. Yeah, come on, come to Joplin. I'll at least stop you from going after Little Rock the whole time. Excellent. And yeah, Britain's not doing so well. That's not good. Come on, Hood. Just take him out. Slowly rebuilding. Oh, aren't you a little jerk? Thankfully it'll take ages for one individual unit to, say, capture Austin. Okay. Knockout punch of those that are left. Yeah, the American Civil War was the first historical event that I actually really was interested in and really felt like I should devote some time and energy understanding it. So yeah, it's always been a little pet area of history for me. I've really kind of moved away from it when I went to university and started focusing on European history. But yeah, this historical event, is why I'm such a history nerd. I think that and growing up with Indiana Jones, those two things really helped. And it was a disappointment when I went to school and I realized how boring being an archaeologist was. That's a little depressing. Shame on you, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, for making me think all archaeologists were Nazi fighters. So a little bit of a misrepresentation there. But I don't know, I always viewed it as the historical underdog story, right? You had these people who had really historically no hope in hell of winning and succeeding in what they wanted to do and what they had to do. But they tried anyway. And history's full of events like that. It's really interesting to see how often humanity goes for the long shot and fails. Get out of there, Mr. Chipman! Alright, well, we should probably get another another army built. So my objective for the first war is to just survive, and then once I'm out of the first initial war with America, if I get that way, but holy crap, England is dropping the ball. I'd like to see the other European powers actually get involved instead of just, blockading them, like the Prussian fleet was doing. Yeah, perhaps the Brits could use a bit of help there. They help me, so I shall help them. Come on. It's looking plausible. So once I'm out of the war, just going to do my best to build up the military, build up the industry, although with laissez-faire, it's all set by the AI. I'd like to try and convince my pops that state capitalism would be a good thing to go for. Not that I'm personally a favor of state capitalism, but for this game, it's kind of necessary so you can actually have an active role in your state economy and build towards what you want to build towards. I'm not very good with economic matters, but sometimes the AI makes incredibly interesting decisions about what it feels it needs. And, well, just given the state of the war, I think we can get away with ticking the speed up one. But this is definitely dragging out longer than some of my practice sessions. Son of a bitch. Which really is never a good thing when you're the South. You want this war to be over with fairly quickly. You're going down that way. With mountains, we shall go that way. Damn. Oh, well, that leader is just atrocious. I've got to take a look at that and see if I can do something about some of our leaders. I really can't. We're stuck with what we got. Alright. Wonderful. So Prussia's out of the war. Excellent. Alright. So we could go for some more research points, but there's gotta be... We're not quite ready to go that way, so we'll go with that. As we lower farm size, and considering we've got cotton as our main export, we probably have quite a lot of farmers. Arrgh! That's a long march. Good. Go back to Fredericksburg. And they're tearing through that fairly quickly for a unit so small. Ah, son of a bitch. Oh, just head back there and let's blockade that. Alright, let me just make sure that this is indeed... We want status quo. So yeah. Yeah, we'll accept that for sure. Excellent! The South lives. So, this means we can now start focusing on building up the country, which is good. Because it needs it. First thing we're going to do, we are indeed a superpower. So, it's time for us to start building our empire. We can do this a number of ways. The first way I'm going to go about doing it is taking a look at North America. This here is how we set our diplomatic influence with other countries that you can influence. So you can't have influence over any other superpower for obvious reasons. You know, you're trying to get lesser nations on your side. So we're going to go after Haiti and the Dominican Republic, Costa Rica, where else do we want to go for? Honduras would probably be good. In fact, basically any Central American nation is going to be worth it. And you can see as you spread it out, it drops down. So with high influence initially, it was going to be 0.5 per day. Now it's 0.1 with Mexico. You can research technologies that boost that up, but for now that should be good enough for us. We're going to get our Confederate diplomats out there, talking the talk, making sure, you know, things are going well, making sure they like us. Now that we're at peace, we can turn the speed up a little bit. We should still have some more units being built. There should be artillery somewhere, that's for sure. There we go. Little Rock. Little Rock, of course. Actually, no, we'll put him in Colombia. Now, as our money goes up, the next thing I'm going to do is start focusing on our defenses. So I find Roanoke's a good spot to build a fortress because it's mountains. Richmond, because it's the capital. Fredericksburg, just to give us a complete line. So they might take Stanton and Manassas, but it's going to be a lot more difficult for them to get into those three. I also like having a fort there in Little Rock because of all the rivers. I'll figure out more of my defenses in the west as time goes on. But I think... What do we got there? Guatemala? Yeah. Are they in my... They're not. So we'll get them up there too. I might make another line down Shreveport and Lake Charles. Or Shreveport and Baton Rouge. Probably Lake Charles, because it's forested and it's got trees. So that's a nice defensive bonus. Which will be important to keep. Oh, right, that's the other one that's important to get on our side, is Colombia. Colombia has Panama in it. Panama allows you to build the Panama Canal, which, among other things, gives you some prestige. It opens up the canal, so you can travel through it. And, yeah, I think that's a great thing for the Confederacy to do. How many aristocrats do we actually have? Oops, no. Quite a few, actually. A couple of Texan. Okay, so they're kind of spread out, but there's not too many we need to worry about. We're gonna make sure they lose militancy. Consciousness changes the way pops vote, and militancy causes them to revolt. So it's always good to lower militancy, and consciousness, you know, if you raise it, you're going to get some interesting political changes, possibly, depending on how the game goes. It's, yeah, it's wide open that way. So here's America trying to move in on Mexico. And we'll get some more diplomatic options once we're able to expend diplomatic points. But once that happens, we'll take a look at it. If we quickly take a look at our states, provinces, regions, whatever you want to call them, you can see the U.S. still has cores on all my land, which means conceivably we're going to be at war with them quite a bit. This is why I'm getting defensive. You know, I want to be prepared for the juggernaut that is the USA to come crashing against me. That's why I'm trying to get as many Central American and South American nations on my side as possible, so that we've got a lot of allies if the US decides to come to war with us. I've got no issue taking them on once I'm ready, but the AI doesn't generally wait until you're ready. So it's just good to do. And they seem to really enjoy doing this, just parking units in my territory. I don't know why. I mean, I can't get to there, so presumably they didn't retreat when the war ended. Who knows? I would guess that they're just kind of sitting there losing troops, though. They wouldn't be supplied, they'd be in unfriendly territory. But hey, if they want to do that, I'm not going to force them to take care of their people better. That's their own thing. So now we can spend some time getting the more research points up. It doesn't really matter researching industrial techs at the moment. We're not at war, it's not critical. Now's the perfect time to make the research grab. And in fact, let's just take a little tour of the world. So North America isn't looking all that different. It certainly looks like it's going to be getting different. The Brits are not doing well. Holy crap. Look at how quickly the US is taking. I guess I've got speed cranked up, so that's partly why. That's my own fault for leaving that too long. So we can do a few things here. We can increase the opinion of the country, so they're more in line with us. We can decrease an opinion of another country, which I'm kind of tempted to do to the US right now. It's probably better to get our relations up with Mexico first, because even after that, we're still ahead of the US, so I'll just have to be a bit more cautious of that little sphere of influence marker that pops up, and jump on it quicker so the US doesn't do too much diplomatic damage. So if we take a look at Europe, you know, not much is really strange going on here. It looks like France got a bit bigger. And yeah. That's about it there. Anything going on in the east? Who have we got invading? Nobody invading. That's good. So the world's not looking all that crazy at the moment. The only kind of unique thing, I guess, would be the Confederacy. Pretty sure that's going to change. Germany has issues forming. This will probably become the North German Confederation. I've never seen Germany form by the AI. Maybe it'll happen this time. I don't think so, America. That seems silly to let you into our country. State capitalism. Come on, people, it's a good option. Let me have control. I'll do what's best for you. Residency. Oops. Oh, no, that's a good thing I hit pause. Dominican Republic. Nobody else really cares. The US has thrown a little bit of influence at them, but nothing really. So that should be a cakewalk. We should be able to get those guys in our sphere of influence pretty quickly. I'm not entirely sure of all the things going on with the sphere of influence. I know that it does Let the people have their faith. I know that it does... oh, that was not the one that I wanted to do. Who else is on that list? Honduras and Nicaragua. I want to increase opinion, not relations. There we go. I know that it opens up the markets, so things produced, for example, in Haiti, when we get Haiti into our sphere of influence, we'll have, like, buying preference for it to come into our sphere, which is helpful, you know, when they're producing things like tobacco and tobacco. So we'll get some good Haitian tobacco. That sounds like a pretty good deal. I have a feeling the Confederacy is already producing quite a lot of tobacco, but the more the merrier, you know? Always pro-military. In a situation like we're in, it's necessary to keep the army as well supplied and funded as possible. Nope, no, politics. So we can see it's taking a long time with, you know, things like weighted universal, first past the post. It takes a long time to get effective election reform. So we can see we got quite a few parties, but because the Whigs were popular and they held sway, it takes a while to get proper political change. New parties do pop up as you research the proper text, and we can see here we've got some rebel movements. These will also become political, so you get communist rebels, fascist rebels, what have you. One of the new things for a house divided is actually the ability to suppress them. So you can see up here we've got suppression points. And Texas Liberation Movement, that'll never really get big enough to be too much of a threat. The suffragette movement, when things get bad, although conservatives are not likely to vote for reform, if there's enough social pressure, then the conservatives in the upper house will actually vote for it. So you can see right now, if we wanted to outlaw slavery, first off, only 17% of the Confederate population wants to do such a thing, and 16% of the upper house would vote yes for it. You can see how that's split there. So reactionaries rarely, if ever, do. 10% of the conservatives are, probably because of the social pressure. Again, there's not enough to push for it. I don't know why the socialist vote is so low against slavery, but then liberals 100% want to get rid of it. Which makes sense. They're liberals, so they're wanting to change. Conservatives are always wanting to keep things as they are. So it's classical liberal and conservative, not what the terms mean politically today, as in right and left. Which is also kind of an abstraction. But yeah, that's a different debate. So I'm just going to pump our tariffs down a little bit. I'm not totally sure how tariffs and taxes and all that other stuff works. I just have a feeling that if I lower it, we'll be better. So here's one of the events that I believe are unique to great powers. This might be open to secondary powers as well, but we've got a number of options. And we're going to outfit an expedition. It's just money. We're making enough of it we can afford to. Eventually, if we do find the source of the Nile and it's random who finds it, then hooray for us. And we get prestige and a little bit of a bonus. So that's good. I'm encouraging clergymen. Clergymen are what do a lot of the early game education. So you generally want around 2%. And anything over 2% won't provide any extra research points. 2% of your population. Anything under, you can see we're only generating 2.27. I believe if we get it up to 2, we'll generate 3 research points. I'm not totally sure on that. Alright, so speaking of reform from before, there's enough, I guess, social pressure, or, you know, movement radicalization to support reform. Now, the movement itself wants universal voting. So I could go ahead and give them universal voting. That will remove the suffragette movement. Or the suffrage movement, not the suffragette. Apologies. If I were instead to go for something like outlawing slavery, the movement would not disappear. They would get even more pissed, and you risk causing a revolution. So we're going to go ahead and give them the universal voting franchise. And you can see the pie chart kind of adjusted. But... or maybe I was just seeing things there. That's a possibility too. Oh, excuse me. Yay, more research points. Now, for great powers, naval units kind of become important. Once you get up to the dreadnoughts, battleships, they add, I think they might add prestige, and they give a nice size boost to your military score. So it's going to be kind of necessary to get those on the go. As well, the higher naval bases you've got. So we can see here in Tampa, we've got a naval base of 1. The further out you can colonize. So it might not actually be a bad idea to upgrade our naval bases here. And I think we got one in Norfolk. There we go. We can see we're slowly slipping down. Oh, and now we're back up. Wonderful. Okay. So we were slowly sliding down the ladder. That gets kind of frustrating. The moment you become not a great power, or you lose your great power status, that would be the way to say that. All of your foreign affairs work, so all of this work I'm going towards building up relations and getting other nations in my sphere, just disappear. They go away, and when you become a great power, they don't reset. So, while Mexico will still like us, and we can keep the ties friendly if we become a secondary power, we lose absolutely all sort of influence in that country until we become a great power again, and then we have to build it up. It doesn't just jump back or give you a bit of a disadvantage. It forces you to rebuild your connections. That's a little frustrating. Alright, we got our fort built in Little Rock, so we're going to expand it. Forts take forever to build. It gets kind of frustrating because the higher level ones are meant to represent trenches. But that doesn't really work. You can't obviously build fortresses in opposing territory, and they take forever. So it's kind of difficult to, when you get there, model a World War I scenario of massive trenches against each other, unless you and the AI happen to build it up as time goes on. So what might wind up happening, actually, along the border with America is basically a massive trench network. That does take time to build, and I wonder if I should maybe start working towards that right away. Because it will give us a fairly good advantage when it comes to having to fight them off. We won't bother with Texas for now. We'll just leave that. Expand those 3. And then we'll just follow it along into Little Rock. I guess if we come down like that, that would be a fairly decent defensive line. If resources and money don't really matter, I might push it out. But for now, that'll protect most of the country decently. There we go. So once a nation becomes friendly with you, like the Dominican Republic is, we have to build our influence up to 100. So you can see right now, to make them cordial and friendly, you only need 50 of these influence points. To get them into your sphere, you need 100. So we just have to slowly build that up. Costa Rica. What are you short of? Oh, you're a mixed unit. Yeah, okay. Haiti! So slowly but surely we're expanding our influence. And the Confederacy is kinda hovering around the bottom. Although we've got a nice lead on Italy. We're catching up to Austria. Yeah, we're not doing that badly. Our military power is helping. Having the 4th largest military in the world does certainly help. Especially when you consider how close we are to having the 3rd largest, and the other 2 are miles ahead of us. We are going to have to reach some sort of military parity with the US eventually. But we can achieve that through, you know, building more armies, technology, developing a navy that's strong enough to counteract them. That's kind of a big one. Does it give me the breakdown? No. Sure. Reinforcement speed would be good. I'm really just trying to kill time with technology before we hit 1870, and then I can just concentrate on getting the military fully upgraded, fully developed, have a good standing military until 1900. We're going to try again. Because I think between the next set comes, yeah, so 1870 and then 1900. So it makes sense to get this as soon as possible and have our troops as, the best they can be for a good long while. Influence slowly ticking up. Nicaragua. The USA is just discrediting everyone in Asia. They've already got Japan in their sphere of influence, so it looks like they might be pushing into the Pacific. And I'm half tempted to make a play for Hawaii. Because why not? That's an excuse to build the Panama Canal. Oh, yeah, they got a ton of influence. A bit late to push on the Hawaiians. So that's kind of a waste of influence. We should keep our influence generation and peddling focused and maximized to achieve the best results. Which is why I'm not doing too many. Just keeping it in a certain area. Then my game plan is, once they're on my side, I'll start discrediting the US, making them opposed to them, which just makes it more difficult for the US to spread their influence in my turf. So we're going to go and sign on to the Geneva Convention as well. Because why not? We don't need the disadvantage of being a jerk. Yeah, we should get that caught up. So yeah, I'm fairly certain the US is going for a Pacific dominance. Which is good, because then we'll focus on getting a Caribbean dominance. And that'll be better. That'll be better than having Pacific nations on the American side. We'll have allies right in the region. And this is going way back to Victoria 1, but I'm like 90% sure there was an event that popped up that allowed the Confederacy to purchase Cuba. So I'm kind of hoping for the same thing. I think this would make a very good Confederate state. It's nice, it's warm, it's an island. It'll be great. Come on, Mexico! Let's go! And we're still a year away from the Little Rock Fort being completed. It takes forever to build these things. But once you get up to the trench level, it's really cool because it affects adjacent provinces. Like it gets the troops in adjacent provinces a larger attrition hit. That's pretty cool. Guatemala? No. They're allies. We're not going to attack Guatemala. So we got time for one more cheap technology, so let's make it good. There we go. So yeah, well, it would be fun to follow up with that Casabella against Guatemala. We don't really have any way to get down there, so it's best to just ignore it. Build up the country, build up the navy, and although I guess I've got steam discovered, don't I? So, steamer transports. Ironclads, monitors, yeah, okay. 18. Yeah. I was thinking I just needed 10 transports, but why not build more, really? It's not gonna hurt. And we've got to be getting close with Mexico. Excellent. And if I remember correctly, because that's mountain, I'm going to need to develop a special unit, a cut down in size unit for Roanoke, for the defense of Roanoke. So basically, wherever we see a fort, I'm going to want to station units there. Initially, I'm keeping them away from the border, except for Little Rock and Fredericksburg. That way, they won't have any way of seeing the units I've got. Oh, I guess I've got one in Lubbock. We should pull him back to Lake Charles. So they won't have any idea of what I've got. And they are going to be coming for the Confederacy fairly early. I have a feeling our truce is almost going to run out. But what we can do now is add Mexico to our sphere of influence. Yay! So, slowly building up the empire. I think I'm going to, with the addition of Mexico into the Confederate sphere of influence, I'm going to go ahead and end the video there. So look at that. Suck it, America. We got Mexico. So yep, I'm going to end the video there for now. Leave it on a high note. Successfully defeated, or successfully fought off the Yankee invasion. We're now building up the country, going to get ready for what, quite frankly, looks like just another invasion. Yeah, there's going to be a war soon. So, that'll be interesting. Thumbs up if you have enjoyed this video. Leave your comments, questions, concerns, jokes, musings, tips, whatever below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.